'Cause I'm yours to keep if you want to.
Cool. Alrighty, man. Thank you for coming through to do this.
No problem, man.
Let's just jump right into it. What is your full name?
My full name is Maxime J.R. Robin.
Are you named after anybody?
Yeah, I was named. That's a good question. I was named after. Well, and I was born in 1984, and around that time there was one singer named Maxime Le Forestier, the Forester. Amazing, like the French Bob Dylan.
Okay.
He was cracking, and then the most popular football player back then was called Maxime too, and around that time the French team went to the semifinals of the World Cup in '82, so they were also like super popular. So that's why I got this name.
Nice, man.
I love my name.
Where were you born?
I was born in Rennes, Brittany, west part of France. It's about 2 hours west from Paris.
Okay.
We're like Bretons, like Nick Breton.
Yep.
I think that's like the first time we connected. I heard your name, but
It's like, oh shit.
We're Celtic, so we used to, like, a long time ago, it used to be owned by Great Britain. That's why it's called Brittany. And we're Celtic, like, Scotland, Wales, Cornwall, and Brittany is the only part that's like not in Great Britain anymore. It's part of France.
Interesting.
So we're like very much like on like independency, like Basque County or Corsicans.
What was it like growing up there?
It was great. It's like Rennes is like, it's a great city. It's just like always rainy, kind of grayish. It's like opposite south of France with the red tiles, and it's a lot of people. They're like, there's a lot of like writers and sailors that are from there, like Cartier, and but depressed people.
Yeah.
It's like,
Just because of the weather?
yeah, the weather.
Yeah.
The weather, it's like coastal, but it's not really sunny.
Okay.
So it's like a great feeling to it, and very much of a rock city too, which for me was tough because I love the hip hop.
Yeah.
Since I'm a kid. So, and I was kind of infatuated with the U.S. and Wu-Tang, Nas, and Mobb Deep, and all these guys, playing basketball, kind of connected with everything in the Dream Team, and the NBA kind of messed up my word. Those guys were like, when I saw the Dream Team in '92 in Barcelona, to me they were like, they were breathing success.
Yeah.
They were the cool guys
For sure.
Jordan.
It's a fucking epic era.
Yeah, just seeing these guys, just like alley-ooping and
Yeah.
back passes and doing crazy shit, and dressed like different colorful Jordans, and Barkley being like superstar, and Magic and Bird, and like you're like, okay, I want to be like these guys. Like, what do I do? Like, it's the beginning of hip hop too.
Yeah.
So that word was very much connected, because when I started listening to music, I was much more into rock. That's like the beginning of like my music experience was more like pop rockish. Like the first stuff that I would like would probably be Oasis or things like this.
Sure. Interesting, man. What kind of stuff were you into like as a kid? Like even before getting to that age? Play sports or?
Yeah. So I was very turbulent kid, and was just a bit all over the place, ADHD. And at the age of 4, my dad took me to do judo. So that helped me mentally, and I did judo till the age of 15, and also a bit of jiu-jitsu, Japanese jiu-jitsu.
Sick.
So I'm a brown belt.
No way.
Yeah.
My brother's super into jiu-jitsu right now.
Yeah?
He's been going for like the last maybe 3 months or something like that.
Wow.
Yeah, I'd say like midsummer, and I'm still fucking up not going to a class yet, but I'm actually really interested to go check it out.
I want to go back.
Yeah.
I've been saying this like for the past year or so. But yeah, around like 12, 13, I started playing basketball, and I had like to make a choice. So I went up to the national level.
No way.
In basketball.
Cool.
Yeah. So it's like till like 18, and just I'm the same height. Since I'm like 13, So when you don't grow, there's like limits that come like really quick. But and I saw my limits when I went to college in the States. That was like
Yeah.
complete different level.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
So it really influenced you watching those guys. What about football? I know, obviously, that's like a big culture in Europe.
Yeah, football. I'm a huge fan. I want to say I can't play for nothing, but I'm okay maybe if I'm playing around in the U.S.
Sure.
because you guys are pretty trash.
Yeah, for sure.
But nah, huge fan of football. Marseille is my team since I'm like 4-year-old again.
Nice.
South of France, 70,000 people going crazy, ultras and like proper fan
I can't
experience.
imagine. Yeah, I mean, just watching that shit from the sidelines. Like my first experience, I went to boarding school in Switzerland for my sophomore year in high school, and like it was a mix of kids from all over the world. And my roommate was Mexican, but he was the biggest fucking AC Milan fan in the world.
Yeah.
And it was like 2005, I think. So like they still were pretty much like dominant.
Yeah.
It was like Inter and AC, and like they
Yeah.
were just and he kept trying to get me to go to games. I don't know why the fuck I passed, but literally
man.
it just sounded like the craziest like gladiator shit. Just with
Legendary
those crowds and,
legendary club, like
Yeah.
highly respectable. In the 90s, like we battled so much with Milan. We won our only Champions League against AC Milan.
No way.
In '93, yeah. And then we lost against them like the year before. But yeah, like football, I'm a season ticket holder since 3 years. I'm back in France because I used to live in the States for a long time. And now I'm able to, go to as many games as I can. I'm traveling still a lot, but I have season tickets with my friends and my homie Ronnie Churiaf. We used to play for the Lakers. We're both fans of Marseille, so we try to go to the games in Marseille as much as we can.
Damn, that's a name I haven't heard in a minute.
Yeah, nah, that's the homie. And
Nice. Does he live in France, or you guys just go to games when you can?
he moved back the same year I moved back.
Oh wow.
In 2019. So we kind of were like, okay, now we can't like watch it. Let's just go, So this is the best when you can go with your friends, to me.
Yeah. Totally.
The experience in the stadium is really different than watching. And I know a lot of American friends, they're just shit on football because they're like, oh man, it's too long, it's an hour and a half, it's just like one goal, compared to like basketball or like
Yeah.
American football where there's always points.
Yeah.
And there's always things happening, it's more tactical, so you've got to, it's a game of chess sometimes.
Yeah. No, I love it. I've always found it fascinating to watch. It's just I never like really got to the point where, because of the hours, like I wasn't up watching games at like 2-3 in the morning on the regular.
Yeah.
World Cup, like anybody else, I feel like you just like jump in and watch as many games as you can because it's just like a cultural world phenomenon moment.
Yeah.
But then it's kind of like back out unless it's like another Champions League or something like that, or a cup is happening. It's like, all right, let me try to catch a couple of these games. But I don't really follow sports like I was telling you in our session the other day, so I kind of fell out of it. All right, so how long were you living in West France?
I was there till I was 19.
Okay, so you really grew up there.
I grew up there till I was 19. I wasn't really a good student, to be honest with you. I was just trying to hang out with my friends, and Um, again, like being a fan of hip hop helped me as a Frenchman so much because I loved it so much that I would go on like websites and print the lyrics and translate every single thing and go on websites like ebonics.com or like those types of websites. So I'll call like some of my friends and be like, what does that mean? You know, like you listen to Raekwon, man, like, or like guys like that.
Yeah,
like,
good luck.
Yeah, crazy New York slang.
Yeah.
You don't understand half of what they're really like saying.
For
you know, Ghostface or, you know, even Nas. If you listen to Amatic, just like double, triple entendres.
Yeah, and a lot of cultural references and things. Like it's layers and layers and layers to that style of music for sure.
Even for like an American person or somebody that grew up speaking English, you would listen to this and you're like, oh, wow, he meant this.
Yeah.
And you listen years later and you're like, okay, no, he meant that too. And like, it's just, you know, so good that.
Yeah. I mean, I missed that generation. I'm a little bit younger than you, and I never really backtracked into like the 90s era of rap. But even now, I always hold all these guys in such high regard. Like, if you look at their writing, like if you just put it on paper, it's really like epic modern poetry. You know, exactly. It doesn't get respected as an art form like that. But when you really like start to look into what, you know, if you're dealing with somebody who's actually saying some shit, is actually writing, is really impressive.
Yeah, I think some of those guys will get like studied maybe in like 50 or 100 years.
Yeah.
Like when hip hop is like maybe completely over, and they'll look at these guys like, oh wow, there's like, you know, just like we studied poets and writers.
Yeah.
And I think hip hop is something amazing.
So where'd you move when you were 19?
I moved to New York. I was upstate New York, city called Tarrytown. It's like an exchange program that I was doing. I literally quit in my first year of college in France. And started working in like the equivalent, like, you know, like a sneaker store, you know, and just saved everything. Didn't go out. Didn't do what a 19-year-old would do, and just saved everything I could. And I could go to like this exchange program with Fordham University. And
was that your first time in the States?
First time in the States. I had no contacts or family or even the cousin of a cousin.
Yeah.
I didn't know nobody.
Wow. What was that
when
experience
I say nobody,
like?
I didn't have like a neighbor that gave me a number and say, go see this guy.
Yeah.
Zero.
Crazy, dude.
I had no clue where I was going. I didn't visit the campus before going. Some of the French students that came within the first 3 months, like I remember like 2 or 3 left. Like this girl like left after a month. She was just crying. She was just so lost, and there's no help. Like it's either you speak English and you just, you know, and New York is like, you know,
especially
it's
at that time,
tough.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, and like my thing was like, all right, F it. I'm just gonna blend with the crowd. I'm gonna forget about, you know, croissant and the French food and just go hang out with Americans, and that also helped my English, because most of my French they're very struggling, and they think in French.
Yeah.
They think in French. They translate, and they become slower.
Sure.
I dream in English. Once you start dreaming in English,
yeah,
it's just you speak better.
Sounds like music was probably like the big, like mental shift for you with that, like translating lyrics and getting, especially like starting with rap. That's like a really deep level of like slang, and having to have like a specific level of understanding that goes way deeper than just like, hi, how are you?
Yeah,
you know?
And in France I was considered really good in English. You know, I always had like A+ all the time, and I arrive in the States and teachers are like, okay, you're gonna need to readjust because there's a lot of things that you're saying. You're just repeating slang and expressions that rappers are saying. and I remember this teacher at the beginning. I say y'all, and she's like, "No, you can't say y'all. Like it's like it doesn't work." And then, like, and this is like grammatical expressions that are, you know who I is, like, it's just like rappers create stuff, and it's just you just repeat it. If you're a foreigner, I think Dirk Nowitzki had the same problem when he first got to the NBA. He was getting like English lessons because he was just speaking. They say that he was speaking like a rapper.
No way.
And then he had to adjust on his grammar, his language. Even the tone sometimes is just. You can't arrive in a room and just be like, "Yo, what's good?" Like you're in a college class at Fordham University.
Yeah.
And I thought it was okay.
So were you were there off the exchange program, and then did you end up leaving that exchange program? Were you still staying in New York?
I'm still staying in New York. And then luckily I had met a friend that was working in a real estate agency. And he got me my first working visa. It's called a young professional visa. And you can obtain it. And basically my first job was working in real estate. And while I was in college, I had started connecting with labels and managers and rappers because my thing was writing. I was a writer. I was working for like French magazines.
Nice.
Doing all kinds of interviews. They always need people on site, and doing in-person interviews is more valuable than phoners. And back then there was no Zoom calls or none of that.
Probably even hard to have like cameras on deck like we do now.
It was like the beginning of like, it was still like MSN, or there was probably what's the cause?
AIM or something.
Yeah, there was AIM, and there was like the what's the video calls?
Shit, I'm trying to think back like generationally. I mean, obviously we have FaceTime,
like
but it's not like
early 2000. But
yeah.
But anyway,
I'm trying to think of that first company.
I was just doing interviews, and then my first job was in real estate. I stayed maybe 6 months. I obtained my visa, and I hated it. These people were like total inhuman sharks, just like ready to kill each other for money.
Yeah. So that was your first job?
That was my first job, and I had my my New York real estate license, which is way too easy to get, by the way. Like what? Like, yeah, don't trust any of the sellers, or it's just like multiple choice questions.
Yeah.
Like answers, and it's just too easy.
Yeah. So you started writing, transition. Was like the writing, doing interviews, was a second job?
Yeah, that was second job on the side. Writers don't get paid that much.
Yeah.
And you get told like, oh, you need to do like, this amount of words, and then when you calculate at the end, you're like, okay, this 3-page article is making me like $200. What am I gonna do with this?
Yeah.
So as I was a fan of the NBA, also I started covering the Knicks and the Nets, and I would get press passes, access to locker rooms, being on the floor,
Sick.
Meeting everybody.
Yeah. That had to be like a full-on dream.
Yeah. I've interviewed everybody from like the 2005 to 2015, like every big basketball player coming to New York, and then Then after that, I guess like my first job that was really connected, like after the real estate, my first job connected was I was working for Pharrell Williams clothing brand, and so he had like Billionaire Boys Club and ice cream.
What year was that?
That was 2007.
Okay.
And Star Trek was cracking. They had NERD Seeing Sounds album. They had Pharrell In My Mind solo around that time. I think the Clips Have No Furry, the one with the oven.
Yep.
And they had like a bunch of other artists that they had signed, like Chester French. I think Robin Thicke was on there. This guy Kenna. There was like,
shout out to Kenna, man.
Yeah, man, Kenna's
amazing.
Kenna was amazing, man. And then so they would like come to us and you know, would be at the store. So like you help on promotion, or they had like the office a couple blocks away, and you meet all those celebrities. So also dream come true. And I think there was like a certain thing for artists come in where, you know, you come to the store and you get served by like a French guy, and I guess it's like a nicer you know, thing. And I was a big fan of hip hop too, so that was the first time meeting Kanye, Jay-Z, Snoop, Rev Run, and even people from like other things like Robin Williams, Ross from Friends, Ricky Martin. I remember like, you know, selling a T-shirt to Ricky Martin. You're like okay, no, you should wear this. And yeah, and I almost lost my job after a month actually, with Kanye West. And yeah.
What happened?
He came into the store, but he had like a scarf and just glasses and a hoodie, you know, like really okay. And right away I was like, oh, this is Kanye West. So it's like you're like his servant for a moment. And he's like, I'm this size in pants, this size in shirts. So you're like, okay, you're large. And he was like, I want this. It's super hard to follow. And we had those like really cool varsity jackets from Ice Cream. One was blue, one was yellow, like a skater. We had the Ice Cream skate team. And then he looks at himself in the mirror and he's like, what do you think? Instead of saying they're both cool because I'm representing the brand, I'm like, nah, not the yellow, man. The blue one. And then, you know, he does that thing where he's like smiling and just stops. And you're like, okay, maybe I fucked up. Grabs both, leaves. 5 minutes later, I get a call from my boss. He's like, bro, never ever tell Kanye West what to wear. Are you fucking crazy? He just told me to fire you. You know?
That's ridiculous, dude.
But 2 weeks later, he comes back, enters in the store, way more animated, and like no scarf, no like hoodie on. And he said, where is Max? He's like, where is Max? And then he comes up to me, he's like, dude, I went to this shoot. I had the blue jacket. Man, you were right. Like, this shit's fire. Everybody complimented me on the blue one. And then in my head, I'm like, yo, great, dude. Like, cool, man. I'm happy you liked it. But I guess, you know, that shows like how, you know, people, you know, can have their moment and their day, and it can be great one day, and other days, you know,
totally.
It's all about perception. And with a lot of artists, even on tour, you know, anybody can have a bad day, myself included.
Yeah, no doubt.
So you don't know what's going on in people's lives.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like, there's a lot of like, oh, you can't tell this person that. You can't say this to this person. I feel like, man, that's on you if you feel that way. But don't tell me how to fucking express myself. If I need to tell somebody something, I'm going to say it. If you want to fucking fire me or not come back and work with me anymore, that's great. But like, I'm going to have a conversation with you. And I'm going to tell you how I'm feeling. And I expect you to do the same back.
Yeah. And for me, like, also coming from France, I had to battle this thing of like not being brutal when I'm talking. I'm still like, Freddie tells me that all the time. Like, he's like, bro, you're brutally honest. And it's Freddie gives, maybe sometimes, people might not really tell him what he's not trying to hear. And I'm like, like, nah, fuck this shit, bro.
Yeah.
And then he looks at me like, it doesn't really say anything, but like, he told me a couple of times, like, man, sometimes you're like a bit brutal when you say things, but it's just because I don't know other ways to say it.
Sure.
I wish I could say that in French, and I'm probably my vocabulary would be way better and my tone would be better.
Hey man, it is what it is. So you're working there, you're working at BBC. How long? That's what, 2007,
2008. First show experience, we like NERD would promote their stuff or the Clips promote their stuff. Then like there's like little clubs, like, yo, can I slide in with y'all? I'll carry some shit, or I'm just observing. I'm observing their tour managers, and just people around them, like their managers. Jadakiss manager, rest in peace. I speak Jay. Like, how Loic that works. He's half French, and he would handle the brand and work with any business things with Pharrell. It was kind of like I would ask him a lot of questions because he was half French. He grew up in America.
Sorry to interrupt, guys. I have to go pay the meter. It's been an hour.
Okay.
Yeah, if you go out the front, and if you want, just move your car through the back and then park. My car is a smart car that's right through the alley. Just park right behind my car.
Okay, cool. Go out to the front.
Either way. Yeah, that's fine.
Cool. I'm sorry to interrupt.
That's okay.
I was realizing that we've been there an hour. I don't want to get
No, of course, dude.
And,
don't worry about it.
Thanks.
Yeah.
So just observing, and I already had like a sense that I like, the live shows.
Yeah.
And so I went to like a few festivals, and I was already connecting, and my thing was like pure New York rap stuff. So I had connected like Noah and Druha from Duck Down, and like Buckshot and 5FT from Black Moon. Sean Price would like, show me love or like take me places too. And those were the guys that I would do like my first shows, and then my roommate at the time, Emilio Rojas, he started to like pop and do like mixtapes with Green Lantern, and he had like his buzz in New York, and then I was really connected with like radios and magazines overseas. So I was like, look, I'm working for the biggest magazines in France. Like, I know people that do club shows in France. Let's try to do a few shows in France. So we started doing a few shows in France. I was like, okay, we can do a few things. Like, once you get booked for a festival, you can build around it. Let's say you get booked $2,000 for festivals. Here you go. That's a round trip flight for you and your DJ.
Yeah.
You build from there.
Sure.
And a lot of artists that are up and coming ask me like, how do I tour Europe? You should have like a base on like how to start.
Yeah.
A lot of people think like they're just gonna have to go and do a show. I think the key is to get booked for maybe a festival, so it's less risky.
Sure.
There's more people on the bill. It's not, only about you, and also festivals pay better. So you can like have a base. If you get booked for a festival, you can have a base and start from there, then try to find stuff around there. And
You started doing that even when you were first booking shows, or is that more so something you'd say is like a strategy for people like more now?
Even now.
Yeah.
Even now, for an up-and-coming rapper, I would say, like, try to talk to festivals over, like, club promoters. Because if you look for a club promoter, like, there's going to be you on the bill, maybe with a DJ and a local act. Everything relies on you. You're the headliner. You need to sell those tickets. And if you fail, you're not coming back in that market.
Yeah.
So, if opposed to, like, try to connect a festival, and the festival will be like, look, we have this amount of budget to bring you, and you can try to, like, make it the base of your tour and build around there.
Sure.
Because otherwise, if you're up and coming and you don't really know, you don't really know what your fan base, and then you start booking shows in, like, random places, it's like a huge, like, bet on you just traveling in the blur. And that's like the first tours we were doing with Emilio. Like, I had no clue what I was doing, really. I would find the bookings. So we like, the first run, we would have like 5-6 dates, and we'll go to like second or third tier markets. Like, we would go to a city like Nantes, but there's like, that's like the 7th or 8th biggest city in France. But I'm just thinking, okay, this guy wants us there, we're gonna go there.
Yeah.
Big mistake, because you have to go to Paris first. If you don't pack Paris, then how you gonna go to a 7th or 8th market? You it's a guaranteed fail.
Yeah.
Or if you don't pack London, how you gonna go play in Newcastle or Manchester? And some people, they'll take those bookings because somebody on Twitter hit them up, and they think they have fans there. But because you get like a tweet per week from a German fan from Cologne, doesn't mean you can pack, like, let's just say 200 people.
Yeah.
It's just like social networking. If you don't have like 5,000 fans, then don't expect to bring 500.
Yeah, of course.
It's impossible.
Yeah.
And even then, like, and so you just learn, like, progressively how to not lose money on tour. So I'm progressively becoming booking / manager / tour manager. But I was more comfortable in the tour manager position because I feel like I just care for people.
Yeah.
That's what I'm good at.
Sure.
And
so that starts to be like what,
2009, 10.
Yeah.
10. And those are like the first runs. And then that's also when I decide, like, one of the big thing, I mentioned the Dream Team. One of the big things for me too was the XXL freshman covers, because coming from Europe, all these artists back then had no connections over to Europe.
Yeah.
So what I first did, when one of the first ones, I think, was like 2010, you could find emails like easily, or connect people still easily. It wasn't like there was no like Instagram or Twitter. It would still be MySpace. You could just message people right away, kind of.
Yeah.
Facebook was sort of popping, but I connected with like Asheroff or like Blue or Fashion, and then after I could also aim at the ones I really liked. I emailed Freddie Gibbs' team. I emailed Nipsey's team, and those were the guys that I really wanted to work with. And so I'm like moving from the veteran New York things. I felt like I had learned enough.
Sure.
And then moving on to like, okay, I want to have the new guys, and I want to have the new ones get to Europe, now how do I do this? Freddie Gibbs had never toured Europe in 2011 when I'm in touch with them and I come and meet them in LA. And I must have sound crazy. I'm like, look, I'm going to get you this press, put you on this radio. And then 6 months after that, the buzz is going to keep going. We'll do features with local rappers or local producers, and we'll put a tour together. And they just trusted me. And that was late 2011. First tour was March 2012. We did 8 shows that I booked from A to Z, tour managed, everything.
How'd that go?
Good. I know in his new album he says he wasn't packing. I think he means it was just small venues.
Yeah, sure.
It was just like 300 people venues. So I remember our first show in Amsterdam, for example. Amsterdam is a very tough city to pack. We maybe had like 100 people there. And there are some cities that are tough, but our first show in London or our first show in Paris was sold out.
Wow.
So you have a base right there.
Sure.
But where like some artists are smart and some are not is that they know how to treat a new market. And I think Freddie has that, like, you know, marketing like mentality. He's like, I don't know, he's like, this is what you want. It's like, you know, it's like drug dealing. It's like, this is what you want, this is what I need to do to win. I don't know, it's like the corner.
Yeah.
You know, so this is what I need to do. The first show, like one of the first show in London, like, no, the second show in London. The first one he did take pictures and do his thing and meet people. But our second show in London the year after at XOYO, this like popular venue in London, it's probably like 400, sold out. He literally had at least 200 people, and they would make another line after the show that would go outside,
Wow.
and to the point that the venue is like, look, we have to close. And he was like, I'm not leaving till every single person takes like a photo, or I'm able to. And every single one of them, he's talking to them. He's not like just like, hey.
Yeah.
He's like, how you doing, man? You like the show? Oh, nice sneakers, da 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 da. You know, when you enter in the store and there's some guys, they got this, they analyze you and they're like, nice shirt, man. Like,
Totally.
you know, or he'll roast you a little bit, or he makes it memorable.
Yeah.
Everybody leaves and they got something from Freddie Gibbs. You know, 10 years later, he's one of the staples of, like, you know, even like independently, he was like.
Yeah.
And some artists are good at that. Some are not really good.
Yeah.
You know, they just do the show and bounce. I feel like they don't care. They don't want to post a flyer. They don't want to do local promo, because they're cracking so much in the States. They're just like this. They're like, nah, I'm killing it. I'm on Hot 97. I'm on, you know, all the hottest radios, and Europe is not one market.
Yeah.
It's, you know, it's like 25 markets.
Yeah.
And 20 different languages and like 15 different currencies.
Yep.
And you know, there's a lot of things to be understood there. Like, it's not because you get booked in Switzerland or in Norway that they have more money. Yes, those are rich countries, but they're tiny cities.
Yeah.
You don't get paid more. Like, there's a lot of like myth that, you know, artists are like, the main one, again, like, it is not because you get like 5 tweets a week from German fans that means you can come. Like, and it's like, you really gotta like work on, you know, doing all the footwork and as much promo as you can. And, you know, I even like going out there with, if you can't afford it, you're just going out there and connect people. I had a friend from New York last week. He told me, like, no, I went to London just to meet artists out there and producers out there, and trying to get, and just like what we're doing right now with Lord Apex. We came, we just wanted to connect people, And I think this is just the basics of like starting a relationship with the market, and not just going thinking, okay, I'm gonna kill shit.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, unless you're like Drake or,
even those guys. I mean, early stages is a whole different conversation.
Yeah, and some artists now that are like huge in the States, they can't tour Europe because like they're not promoting themselves at all. Like they don't do interviews, they don't have promo out there. There's nobody playing them on the radio. And what people also needs to understand is that we've got our own artists. French rappers are more important. The number one French rapper is way more important than Jay-Z, Eminem, or Drake, or whoever. Like, people don't care.
Yeah.
People don't. Not everybody speaks English. Even in the UK, like their number one rappers will outsell like any American rappers.
Yeah.
So you always come second when you travel. Just like Lord Apex, that I manage now, he comes second. He's British. He comes in the States and it's like, yes, he speaks English, but like, bro, nobody knows you.
Yeah.
And you've got to like slowly, like step by step, build your audience and be respectful of like what you're trying to do. Because if you come with that mentality that I'm the shit, I'm killing it in LA, or I'm the shit in New York, like it's not gonna work.
Even going back to like with that first run with Freddie, like what was it something that you had advice? Did you have like a mentor? I mean, I know you were talking to a lot of like the OGs, but what was like that initial strategy of like, hey man, I want you to come out here, I'm gonna put together these 8 shows, and like, is that all stuff you're just thinking of like, fuck, I think this could work, let me throw this in the air and just see what happens? Or is it something that you've been kind of given in a mentorship level of advice, like that early stage of building out that framework and pulling it off?
I think it was part of that, like just something that I had, I don't know, in my guts. Like I thought it was going to work. I've been told by American friends and European friends, you're crazy. Like, it's never going to work. And like, it's going to be hard to take care of this guy, this gangster, or it's going to be hard to like book his shows. Nobody knows him. And I just believed, and I gave everything I had, and it was just like that for like most of the artists that would do their first tour. And then I kind of, it's funny because, and maybe I should thank him and his team and Lambo and Archie for trusting me, because after the vision from the States was like, okay, Freddie is like blacklisted by the industry. He was in Interscope. He was he just had out of CTE. Nobody really like would have like bet on him. And here comes this fucking crazy French guy who's like, yeah, I love your shit. Like, so everybody would, after the first few run, like everybody would just be like, nah, like I need to do my first tour with you. If you were able to bring Freddie out there and be successful, then, and that's like after 2012, I did, 2013 I did Chance the Rapper first European tour. I did Dom Kennedy first European tour off the Yellow album. I did who else? Well, it was like a lot of like first timers.
Sure.
And still like through the years, like in 2018, I did JPEG Mafia, and in the conversation, like the first call with him and Claire, his manager, she was like, "Oh no, if you manage Freddie Gibbs, like it's gonna be easy." And I'm like, "Why are you saying this?" He's like, he's to me, he's easy to work with. He's a hard worker, and so, but people had that perception, So I was like the guy who would like do the first runs. Even even Asheroff, I did his first European run from A to Z.
When you're taking people through these tours, is it like the same, let's say like 10 venues, and you're going through like each different country, going to the same venue? It's kind of similar demographic, similar genre. Like even from building like the first trail, was Freddie like the first time you booked shows in Europe and you just looked up like what hip hop venue is in England, what hip hop venue is in Germany, what hip hop venue is in Amsterdam? Like what's even like that fundamental process of like sorting out where to take people and learning like the industry from a booking agent and tour management perspective? Yeah,
there was a big part of luck in my process on Freddie's first tour.
Yeah,
let's just be honest. My analysis of like Freddie was like, because he wasn't super known, I was targeting promoters that were a fan of him.
Okay.
And taking offers, and I would try to find people that have the same will that I have, opposed to going into major markets, you know. And again, I see it as a mistake now, like I said, for like the first few runs we did with Emilio. But like the first Freddie tour, we went to Montpellier, which is maybe like 300,000 people city. It's like probably the 10th city in France. It's not big, but he sold out that. A promoter was like, "Hey, it's a 300 cap venue. I'm the shit in my city. I'm like, I love Freddie. I'm gonna make it." And then he did it. And then of course we had London, Paris, Berlin, Amsterdam. Now this is what I do. The process is like, okay, we're gonna do the first tier capitals: London, Paris, Berlin, Amsterdam. I mean, those four are like, this is the base. And then after, you have smaller capitals like Brussels. You can go to Scandinavia. You can go to Switzerland and do Zurich. Scandinavia, you do Stockholm, Copenhagen, Oslo. And those are like all the main capitals for hip hop. And then there's like cities that kind of always work, not all the time, but Manchester, very big city in the UK. Hamburg in Germany. They're considered second tier markets, but they're, you know, just as good as some capitals. Then once this is 10 cities right there. If you can catch one or two festivals, and you have 12 cities there, and this is your first run right there.
Yeah.
And the goal is to not lose money on the first one, kind of. You know, do not try to bring like a full live band on the first run. No?
Yeah.
Just keep it minimal. You and a DJ. And, you know, and share rooms.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, you can get light and you can keep it relatively cheap, and like fortunately traveling from like country to country there is really cheap if you're willing to like go on trains or find like,
but it's a science.
Yeah.
I did not know what I was doing. Again, like the first few runs, you just book trains last minute, trying to rent a car, but like you do it last minute, you book your flights last minute. You know, a tour like it has to be prepped like 6 months early.
Yeah.
As soon as you can book your flights. You might find some flights round trip for like $500 or $600, opposed to like $1,200 or even $1,500 last minute. Same thing for a hotel. Like, again, like you can just there's like all kinds of things. Find a hotel closer to the venue. You can just walk there. You save on cabs. You say, you know, like there's all kinds of things. You can bring food back from the venue. Like, now I got this shit down to a science, because like I'm able to save on everything.
Yeah.
But at the beginning, you just, it's just so many things to anticipate. You arrive at the venue and like, you know, you didn't advance. The advancing is like prepping the show and you don't have the contacts. You don't know who to call when you get to the venue. You don't know, like, you forgot to ask, like, what type of material. You might arrive and there's no mixer. They're like, well, you didn't tell me.
Yeah.
Like, so you gotta learn all these things, and so it can be like, touring is cool, but it can be like a beautiful train wreck, you know.
What like got you into that part of the industry?
I think what you say, what got me there?
Yeah, like to touring specifically.
Um,
I mean, obviously, I know being European is going to help, like, just with general knowledge of traveling around, but as a whole, if you're, like, looking at, like, options of, oh, man, I could work at a record label, I could, be an A&R, like, you clearly just have, like, a love for music and a deep understanding for hip-hop specifically. Like, was there a reason that it was like, oh, I'm going to go into this part of this world?
Yeah, I think the heist tour for Macklemore and Ryan Lewis, I was taking care of Chance the Rapper.
Okay.
And it was the first time of my life that somebody was just hiring me off my touring manager, like, skills. I had done Asher Roth, Dom, the Cool Kids, or Freddie, but I would do everything. And for Chance, they're like, no, you're the tour manager for Chance on this run. So I'm not booking shows. All I have to do is deal with him, his tour bus, or like taking him places, coordinating, advancing. And I was like, okay, I like that.
Yeah.
I'm much more comfortable with this than, trying to do 36 things never
Sure.
works.
Yeah.
And a lot of people on tour, they try to do too much. And if you know your job, just do that and try to find somebody else that will do it, And then that was like the first tour that I realized, okay, maybe I'm seeing as a competent tour manager, and I should be seen as such. That's when I was like, okay, I have like my bio on Twitter, like tour manager, and then you have your credits, and then you're like, okay, I'm a tour manager now. I can book shows, I can help, but this is not what I should really focus on.
Yeah.
I should really focus on doing one thing well, and eventually, through the years, moving into more manager role. If like you get along with an artist, or
Sure.
you find an artist along the road.
So you started getting into the artist management world as well.
Yeah.
And how'd that start?
So that's when we met, I think, around in LA. I was helping out Crondon from Strong Arm City a lot for his solo stuff. So there you go. I'm learning again. I'm like at the beginning of like just being a manager. And then Fashion. I co-managed Fashion for like a year or two. He signed on Mass Appeal. It was like Nas's first signing on Mass Appeal. And then I helped for his album The Ecology. It was like direction and A&Ring, and I like that part too. But I was Fashion's tour manager, so I would help on like touring a lot.
Sure.
And
just naturally kind of fit.
yeah, and that's also when I could like combine both. But what I realized with Fashion's experience is that like he wasn't the artist that I grew up with, or that I hate to say found. You don't find a relationship, it comes to you.
Sure.
But yeah, I realized, okay, I don't have like a history with this guy. And the guy, Aaron, who was managing him since 7 or 8 years, wanted to co-manage. So he had an history. So, and for me, it was hard to just not have my full input on
Sure.
this. I needed like creative input.
Sure. I mean, you got to learn that though, like
Yeah.
as you're going through the process.
Yeah. And then after like 2014, Freddie dropped Pinata. 2000, like he had like the Mad Lib project, and I was like very busy touring with him, and then I had like Freddie the whole time, tour manage him everywhere, from US to Canada to Australia, Europe. So there was like a lot of tours, and then depending on like who hits me up, the 2 years with JPEG Mafia, I did like different other artists. There's some I don't want to mention because like there's some that I don't like anymore. But yeah, and then now like I manage Lord Epic since 2 years.
So what was like your experience like? You're going through, basically like a decade's worth of tour management, tour booking in Europe, and then you come into basically like top of 2020 and you hit COVID. And what's like your world? What happens at that point in time?
We were just coming out of the fastest year probably of my life, with the Bandana tour. It was Freddie Gibbs and Madlib, and we're doing like 1,500, 2,000 cap venues in Europe. He's doing really well in the States too, like pretty big Australian tour. And I was getting really tired of New York and paying expensive rent.
So this whole time you'd still been keeping a place in New York?
Yeah,
Like
I was
all the way
renting in
from
New York.
2009, 2008?
Yeah, from that point till 2018.
Oh shit.
I had like a 2 year break. That's when we met in 2011 to 2013 in LA. That's when I connected like the Cool Kids, Dom Kennedy, Asher that were living here. But I went back to New York because I just prefer New York. And but it was like getting into COVID for me. Luckily I had just purchased my first apartment in the south of France, and I was like, okay, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
When COVID arrived, I was on tour with Wiki in Europe in March 2020. And instead of like, flying back to the States, I just flew to the south of France. And I was like, okay, not going back.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was it. That was it. I think. And my whole thing was like, I kept hearing all the music industry complaining and whining, and I was like, fuck this, like, it's music.
Yeah.
There's no shows, so what? There's you can drop vinyls, you can do merch, you can just drop music and stream it. You can still find deals, like music labels don't stop having money because there's no more shows. They don't all make money off shows. There's so many labels. So I had just heard of Lord Apex on a show on that Freddie tour in London. Somebody like pointed me like, yo, this kid in London is dope. In my head, I'm like, okay, I'm moving back to Europe. Maybe I should work with somebody who's close to me, either a French rapper or somebody in the UK. And then I was working with a friend on Mos Def's 20-year anniversary tour, Black on Both Sides, 20-year anniversary. And then mentioned Lord Apex. And then didn't say anything. And the next day, him and his agent, like Mos and his agent calls me. He's like, yo, we want Lord Apex on tour. I'm like, I don't work with him. I just met him. So I called Lord Apex the next day of our first meeting. I'm like, yo, dude, I got a tour for you. He's like, okay, I've seen liars in my life, but you're a good one. And I was like, no, bro, like it's the Mos Def 20-year anniversary tour. Let's start working together. I put you on that, and then,
It's a
send me
first
some.
tour to fucking go out on.
Yeah, that was his first tour ever. So I'm like, yo, send me some music. Like I'd like to hear more of what you're doing and help you out on your development. And that's how we started. And then I had plenty of time on my hands because I wasn't moving.
Yeah.
So I'm like, look, I'm not going on tour for who knows, like probably 6 months. Let's make a record and see where it goes. We made a record, and I approached. I'm like, he hadn't like no deal, or he had like a project that had like over like maybe like 15 million streams that wasn't dropped on vinyl, for example. So I'm like, I see it in the comments everywhere on YouTube. People want vinyls.
Yeah.
Let's drop a vinyl. Do you have a deal? Do you want a deal for this project we're working on? So we started working on that. And then I hit up Carhartt Whip, who I've been like consulting, working, connecting them with artists through the years. I'm like, look, now I have like an artist that I manage. It's time for y'all to give back, kinda.
Sure.
Like let's work on something. His favorite brand is Carhartt, which was a coincidence. But I'm like,
great.
He mentioned Carhartt in the song, like 2 years prior to that. I was like, let's work. So we started that, and 6 months later, he had his first tour booked, sponsored by Carhartt. Got canceled. The tour got postponed twice. And instead of like, he would like, the first show in London was 300 cap, sold out. And instead of just be like, oh, okay, it's canceled, let's just quit. My thing was like, nah, let's just find a 600 cap venue and just see like how much we can sell. So we announced like another tour 6 months later, sold out, canceled. COVID kept going.
Yeah.
So I'm like, fuck it. We're going to Scala, which is a legendary venue. It's like 900 cap. And then he sells 300 more tickets. And I'm like, damn, you sold 900 tickets. And then COVID ended, and finally his first headliner show ever of his first tour ever in London was 1,000 people.
Jesus, dude.
He had never done a headliner. So yeah, that was really cool. And we had Carhartt did his merch, which was really cool, and it helped tremendously. And they still help because we're like our third tour that they're sponsoring. Basically, they do the deal is like, you do his merch and we rep you.
Yeah, great.
It's like tour sponsoring.
Yeah.
And then
it's huge, man.
With a cool brand.
Yeah.
So like we've been doing that and just working on like more records, and I'm glad that I wasn't too pessimistic about COVID, and I was just like, okay, let's do things. Let's try to do as much as we can. During the 2 years of COVID, I think we dropped like 3 or 4 Lord Apex vinyls. First one we did 500, sold out in 15 minutes.
Wow.
6 months later, we did a second one. We did 750, and that one was the famous project. And then in 5 minutes, sold out. So we're like, we do this project with Vidon and do the vinyl, sold out. And the latest one, we did like 1,000 copies, and I think in like 8 minutes it sold out.
Jesus, dude.
Yeah.
Is this all the same vinyl and same like distribution company that you're using, or is it different with each project?
Yeah, no, we work with a label called Dope, DAUPE. They do like a lot of the, like all the Griselda roster, and they did some Ghostface things. They did um, a lot of different artists and stuff. And they're based in Brighton. They're based in the UK. So I wanted Apex to have that. Like, you come from the UK, but they only mess with American artists, you know. Or
Cool,
like,
that's kind of building a foundation to start fucking with UK artists because
Yeah.
you're selling that many units that quickly.
yeah, and it's very Americanized. So Vidon being from Harlem, American producer, and when I sent them the music, they thought he was from New York.
Crazy.
Yeah, and so that's how we started working.
Funny New York accent.
Yes, exactly, exactly. But he's still like, for British people, he's still
Yeah.
like, still very Americanized.
Yeah.
And then here we are now. Did this year in March, was able to bring him on tour with Freddie Gibbs, and then doing the tour with Action Bronson, Alchemist, and Earl, also the NBA Leather tour. And he did his own solo tour, his own festival tour. We're about to go to South America, which is really rare as well.
Yeah, for sure. That's like a market I almost never hear anybody mention
No.
from like the rap world. If it's not like a single spot date, you know what I mean? Where it's like, oh, this school or this venue really wants me for like one night, you know?
Yeah.
Fly to Brazil, cool. Like you and I, those guys, when I was working with them, got like a random booking from like, oh, cool, let's go to Brazil and do this for a couple days, and then we're back here.
Yeah, I like challenges. So he would mention Brazil. So again, he has like a good fan base in Brazil, but it doesn't mean much. Like the streams, like you can't rely on like the streams. So like, yes, there is like Brazilian people listening to you, and yes, there is quite a lot of comments or people that say come to Brazil.
Sure.
But because you have like, let's say 10 comments on a YouTube video from Brazilian people, do not mean that you're like
Yeah. So
super popular in Brazil.
Yeah.
But still, like, there is something
Sure.
that we can work with. And then this Brazilian producer wanted to send me beats, and then from talking to people, they were telling me like, yo, he's kind of like a Brazilian alchemist. He's worked with everybody. This shit is dope. So we started working a couple of songs with Apex. Then once I had like the core of the project, I sent it to Primavera Festival because I knew they were doing Primavera Sao Paulo for the first time. And they had booked Apex in Primavera Barcelona. And then again, it comes back to trying to find, if you're not from the market, trying to find a festival.
Sure.
So Primavera Sao Paulo is like, yeah, we like the idea. It's like an artist that we're working with and a Brazilian artist. We're booking them. Here we go. We have a foot in Brazil, and
Totally.
and then, you know, our agent, Kevin, well, I didn't know. He knew that they were doing other editions in Chile and Argentina. So he had them up and like, why don't you book him for the other Primaveras in Argentina and in Chile? So boom, we have 3 shows. And then, you know, of other connections, let's find more shows in Brazil. And then boom, we have a whole tour in South America.
Yeah.
Something I've never done with Chance or Freddie Gibbs.
Sure.
That are huge.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of cool. But it just came off like, you know, hearing Apex telling me he loves Brazil. So,
Yeah.
so I was like, okay. So it was marinating for a while, you know. It was like, what can we do?
Yeah.
And then you just seize opportunities sometimes they're in front of you. That guy had followed me on Instagram. I didn't even see that he followed me.
Sure.
And then one day he was like, me send beats. And then instead of like ignoring that pack, you know, I asked about him to some friends. I was like, yo, you know him? Like,
Yeah.
or like, you know about Brazilian rap? Yeah. Oh yeah, Alif. Yeah. He's dope. Check him out. So it started from that. Can't be too lazy sometimes with like
For sure,
the
dude.
people
That's
you connect
crazy.
with.
Yeah, that like little seed planted and grew into that
Yeah.
being like the first tour.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just, well, you gotta be persistent with
Yeah.
with everything. It was like when I first met Apex, like for my first day, I was like, You gotta think of branding. What's your favorite brand? He's like, Carhartt. I know them. Nike, my favorite shoe brand, and I rock New Balance. So from there, I'm like, how do I connect with these guys?
Yeah.
A year later, he did his first Nike commercial in the UK.
Crazy.
He did it like the Yorachi London, which is like a one-off, but there we go. And then from there, like, how can we
keep developing
this? But you set yourself challenges. And who's your favorite producer? MF Doom. Shit. But before he passed, my number one goal as a manager was to connect with Doom.
Yeah.
Just like his favorite producer being Madlib, so we want to work with Madlib,
Yeah.
Obviously through Freddie it's a little easier.
Yeah.
But it's what you've got to set yourselves goals. Like even like coming to LA, he was like, okay, are we just gonna work with like a local? I was like, bro, if we can work with Dr. Dre, let's work with Dr. Dre. And he laughed. I was like, I'm not laughing, bro.
Yeah.
You gotta have like high expectations,
Totally.
like, and then you might like catch something trying to achieve something,
Yeah.
Just by trying to do a show in Brazil, I got a full tour in South America. So if you keep that mentality, then you can make things out of it.
Yeah, for sure, man. I think like a lot of people miss by not even having any kind of goal whatsoever, like going to a place and just kind of fucking around and not having like a intention of using your time for anything.
I had people that are being too negative or too pessimistic, especially in music industry. Like you've got to, without like being cocky or like, no, it's not even about confidence. It's about like, wanting it. And a lot of people, like artists, producers, managers, they've got dreams, but I feel like there's like a sense of like, you're not gonna wake up at 7 every morning to do it, or just do everything that you can, like you just postpone a lot of things and you just get lazy. So, and it's like sports. It's like practice, It's I don't know. Sometimes you, like for shows, for example, like if you tour, like if you don't rehearse and like you're not like on point, you're not there at sound check, and you're like, you don't take this shit seriously.
Yeah.
Like you've lost. Like our first tour with Apex, I told him like, bro, if you're not on time, if you don't rehearse your shit, if you don't rehearse your tones, if you don't know your lyrics, if you like, you're like in like a part of you're just losing.
Yeah.
Because there's so many guys that do the same thing as you. Like, how can you, if you're not like uber talented and have like crazy luck or the machine behind you, then you gotta work twice harder, but work smart. So a lot of this, I think they're not willing to do it.
Yeah, for sure. So you've been doing basically like, you've been on the road for I don't know, 13, 14 years. You got like any standout things that are just like, you think back on all those different tours, all those different people, like moments? I'm sure.
A million standout things. We got a million standout things, good and bad.
Yeah, which is good.
Through thick and thin.
Yeah.
From like fighting on my first tour with this guy, with Emilio Rogers, just being emotionally stressed and tired on the road, and just like tired of sharing the same room, and just being like, oh my god, like shit is going wrong, and then achieving like big things, like touring with my friends. Asher is like a great human being, somebody or Chuck. I love touring with these guys. You know, we were able, for example, with Asher, we did a tour, and then we witnessed a football match in Rome. At the end of the tour, we went to a football match in Rome, and then and it was just so cool because it was like one of the last game from Totti, which is like a 42-year-old player from Rome, and he comes like 5 minutes before the end of the game and scores 2 goals. The last tour with Bronson was also like really cool. I had never really been around him, and just the first night he orders like crazy Turkish food, and he starts serving plates to everybody and just shows love. And I'm a big foodie person, you know, so it's just and then we have like this crazy night. I think in 2014 we do a show in Paris with Freddie, and then our promoters like, yo, there's like David Lynch's private club Silencio. It's like a Mobb Deep private show. It's like 100 people club, and then we get there and it's like Mobb Deep performing like 5 songs. Whiskey Beats is the DJ, and then Prodigy calls. He's like, yo, Freddie Gibbs in the building. Calls him on stage for Shook Ones Part 2. It's just like a posse. You know, They love that Mobb Deep.
Yeah.
And then we're like on stage for Shook Ones Part 2, like, you know.
Yeah.
And like I'm a kid, you know, I'm just a fucking
that's a
fan.
fucking moment, yeah.
And then, you know, you just meet those guys. We get off stage, and then we're just partying, and then Floyd Mayweather comes in the club with like 7 huge bodyguards, and then Freddie's like, yo, I want to meet him. I'm like, bro, how the fuck I'm gonna?
Yeah.
He's like, yo, please. And complete bullshitter. I knew this guy Tower was the head of his security, the biggest guy ever. Google Tower Floyd Mayweather UFC, and I go and tap his shoulder. I'm like literally at his elbow, like he's like 7-footer, and then I'm like, excuse me, I work for Silencio Club, and we have a good customer here who wants to meet Floyd Mayweather. Hey, fucking work, dude. He was like, okay, yeah, sure. And then he introduced Freddie to Floyd, and Freddie spent the whole evening connected with Floyd.
Wow.
Yeah, that was a funny moment, man.
Good shit, dude.
Yeah.
Creative little idea.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Obviously, his arrest was a big one too.
Yeah.
This is like a funny, memorable drunk night. Him getting arrested in in France, in south of France, was like, you know, I cannot like not mention it because this was important, and that showed me you need to be there for any time. I mean, I had like other Asher's one of Asher's friends was arrested for drunk driving on tour, or we had like, you know, fights, or there's things you need to anticipate. If you're a tour manager, you always anticipating what the fuck was gonna happen, you know. I think I lost Chance one night too. What it is like, there's times you're like, fuck. You know, we're like in the middle of Arizona with like a rapper from Chicago that I won't mention. And it's his tour bus, like the fucking tire explodes and it's 110 degrees. I have no fucking clue how to change a fucking bus tire.
Yeah. And
our driver didn't know either. So, you know, we're like, you know, it's dumb hot and you're trying to reach assistance, and so you've got to deal with like stuff that you would never think you would deal with sometimes, and in your life. You know, like people getting arrested and sent back. You know, like you've got to deal with borders. You know, rappers, they smoke. You know, but some want to carry shit with them through borders. So you take a risk. You know, or even like when you carry merch. There's countries you can't carry bags of merch from one country to another. It's called importing. You know, you've got to declare those goods.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things that you know you don't expect, but generally there's like those magical moments, like the last Freddie run in August. We were in Finland, and I knew after us at the same festival, Gorillaz was playing. I'm a huge fan, so I thought, Gorillaz. I thought he wouldn't give a shit, but he's like, yeah, let's do it. So I had a friend that knew their tour manager, connected us, and when we arrived, they're like, okay, yeah, we're gonna put you on side of the stage. I see the dude is like cool, you know, and I meet their security, but there's like a crew of 40 people. They're huge, you know. At the end of the show, I'm like, yo, you think we could meet the crew? And he's like, all right, give me a minute, talk to the manager. I thought it was not gonna happen, and he was like, yeah, I'll take you, and then you take your guys after. So, you know, because it's a different crew, all older people, and it's not only rappers. But so I bring Freddie in and introduce him to them in our barn. And then while they're talking, this older tour manager, guy from Manchester, crazy accent, Smoggy, shout out Smoggy, love you. He's like, yo, you know what would be crazy? They should do a song together. I'm like, yeah, for the next album. He's like, nah, for our next show. I'm like, what? He's like, aren't you guys like booked the same festival as us? I'm like, yeah. He's like, could you fly like a day early for our show? Because we were booked same festival, but the day after. So I'm like, organizing that. But that's a lot of logistics. But we fly in the day before, talking to Gorillaz manager. And then she was like, yeah, we should do Feel Good with De La Soul. I'm like, no, we should do Clint Eastwood. And then she was like, oh, let me talk to them. The next day they get back, they're like, yeah, we're down. Clint Eastwood is the last track of the show. And it's a festival with like 30,000 people in Finland. And they brought out fucking Freddie Gibbs. It was fucking cool crazy. Moment.
Yeah.
I mean, it took in the space of like 4 days, but magical. And yeah, and they also like their security took me on stage, because you cannot go on stage. There's so much material. There's so many things. He's like, you can stay in there and not move, and we'll allow you to film with your phone, which things you cannot do.
Yeah.
And then I was like, wow, I'm lucky. That, you know, that was probably the last incredible moment in touring. It was just like being able to like connect the dots.
Yeah.
And make it happen.
Is that August this year?
That was August this year in Finland.
Crazy.
At the Flow Festival. You can look it up online on Arte, because it was on. Oh yeah, it was live on TV too.
Wow.
So
sick, man.
You know that meme. You know. Yeah. But that's like best case scenario. I got lucky.
Yeah.
You know, I got lucky, and those people are nice, because sometimes you're just like, hey, can I meet them, or can I introduce them? You know.
Yeah.
And like Burna Boy was there right next to us at that festival. Freddie was like, yeah, I want to meet him. I went and talked to them, and they were like, yeah, sure. You know.
Yeah.
It's not taking a shot at them, but like they knew who Freddie Gibbs was. It would have just took like 2 minutes for them to just connect.
Yeah.
But his people probably didn't even ask him if he wanted to meet Freddie Gibbs.
Yeah. Huh.
You know, but Gorillaz,
Yeah, dude, that's amazing.
that was really cool. That was so fucking cool. I felt like a kid. There's like moments where we do this shit.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's amazing, dude. All right, so you mentioned foodie.
Oh man,
And are you cooking too? You like to cook?
I love to cook. I
know Chuck mentioned yesterday or 2 days ago, like,
oh yes.
I'm in the room with my 2 snack kings.
Yeah. Yeah, shout out Chuck English, man.
Yeah, for sure.
Greatest human being. Yeah, man, I love snacking
Yeah.
and sweet stuff, pastries, and everywhere I go, I usually add on the rider your local sweets or your local pastries. Feel free to bring like the local stuff to try out, because
Yeah.
people love that. Again, that's another thing. If you go and tour in Scandinavia or something and you don't learn anything and you stay in the tour bus and you don't meet people, then you're failing.
Yeah.
Or you don't try their food
For sure.
and you just be like, I want the next McDonald's or I want the next KFC. That's a cliche, but a lot of rappers are like this.
Yeah, 100%. A lot of people are like that,
Order
honestly.
me a cheese pizza.
Yeah.
I feel bad. I
Yeah.
feel bad for you. Like, you should try their shit.
Yeah.
You might discover some new things. And yeah, I love snacking and just, you know, I love like moments like that. Like Freddie, when I met him, he would eat cheeseburgers and KFC buckets at shows.
Yeah.
And now we're like, he's looking for like the fine.
Give me those stars, baby. Where's that 2-star Michelin?
We went to a 3-star Michelin in Oslo, and that was the best culinary experience I've ever lived.
What was the
dude.
name of it?
It's called Mahimo.
I don't know if I can't remember.
Maeemo.
I think I emailed them and they were closed. I was there in July and so many restaurants were
stars.
closed for the summer.
Insane.
Yeah.
It was right next to our hotel, and well, I'm telling you, 18 course. I remember every single one of them. Memorable.
Yeah.
Like taste buds to the max.
Yeah.
Fucking on steroids.
The most
Like-
impressive thing I noticed going to a handful of Michelin restaurants this summer, which was like my first time ever doing that, is the way that those restaurants operate.
Cut that. I don't want people to see me drinking Dr. Pepper.
No, I think you're good. You're good. The way that those restaurants operate, like when you're watching like the chef, the sous chefs, the staff, the waiters, the host, like everybody
And everything
is,
stays spotless.
yeah. And it's like, you know, I don't know how many you went to that restaurant with. When I went to a couple of them when I was with family. We were 4 of us, and like they coordinate like 2 people bringing every, like it's just like this beautiful like feng shui art display that hits your table.
It's better to. I wish I was by myself,
Yeah,
or just a duo, like 2 person. If you've never tried like, you know, high end like Michelin star restaurants,
yeah,
I say you start like by bringing like either a very close friend or your
Going
wife
yourself.
or go by yourself.
yeah. I went to Hisha Franco in Slovenia when I was traveling. Man, what a fucking experience. She was on the 2nd season of Chef's Table for Netflix. And it's literally just like you're just in this remote area, like in a valley, in like the bottom of the valley. And like it's so like nature oriented. And it's just like you literally feel like you're just eating shit that they're just grabbing like right out from outside. Unbelievable. Just the most unbelievable food experience, and like the kindest people. Like it was so fucking phenomenal. So are you traveling when you're touring? Are you eating, like you get a chance to go adventure?
Well, our last run was incredible with Freddie, as we had like 2 or 3 days off in between each date, so that's when you can like plan stuff.
Sure.
And go eat what you want. Otherwise, like eating on tour is a nightmare,
Yeah.
because you always like have to go for like, not always, but like fast food. And unless you tour with a big staff and your own kitchen, like I used to love the Macklemore Rand Lewis tour, because we were touring with our own kitchen, and like we had like 3 or 4 chefs every day.
Wow.
Shopping at the market in the morning, fresh products, fixing a new menu every day depending on what they would find in the country's market.
Wow.
That's the dream.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
dream. But
Yeah.
I'm more used to like ordering chicken fingers
On the fly.
and cheeseburgers, and or doing like, you know, pasta, like quick, like we order some chicken pasta for everybody, or chicken and rice for everybody.
Yeah.
And you eat after the show at midnight, and you don't want to eat at that time,
Yeah.
you know. Artists cannot eat before the show, like, so you never really like eat really well, never really have time to eat well. Like nothing is healthy on tour,
Yeah.
from your sleep to your food to like everybody you meet, everybody that's offering things. The timing of everything is fucked. People don't realize that it's
Yeah.
not healthy.
So you've been doing that lifestyle for basically like 15 years. You see
Yeah.
yourself continuing on that road?
No, I you know, I think I said this week, because Triple S is dropping, but I'm one of my friends was like asking me if I was hyped for the tour. I was like, yeah, I kind of would like it to be my last tour,
Wow.
you know, because it's a great album,
Yeah.
and I want, you know, I'm hoping for this album that Freddie takes it to another level, production wise, and just take his show to another level.
Sure.
With keeping like the rawness of like a Freddie Gibbs live show,
Sure.
but it's hard. I'm 38. You know, every tour, like as a tour manager, you're kind of like a sponge between the promoters and the management and the artists, and then it's a lot of like I'm still nervous and stressed, and you don't sleep a lot. It's like riding a bike on fire, man. Honestly, it's like riding a bike on fire.
Yeah.
It's so cool and easy, but no matter what, there's always like something that's gonna happen,
Yeah.
something unexpected. So, but yeah, I mean, I could push a little more, you know. And then, you know, hopefully I can just tour less and transition into like more management, creative,
Sure.
maybe creating a label or like things like that. Ultimately, I have this crazy project, which is I love cheese, so I wanted to open a cheese shop. So I've been talking about this for like the past year and a half. So like records, and, you know, wine and cheese.
Sick.
You know, and I won't say more because I don't want
Somebody to take that.
that concept.
Sure.
Still,
Still, I feel like you'd be able to authentically execute that. You know what I mean?
it
You have a
would be
place
sick.
in mind? Like you want to, is that like a destination? Like you'd be back in South France and bring that like kind of music culture there, or be somewhere in the States and bring like
My city's big enough. I feel like there's a lot of students. I live in Toulouse, France, which is like closer to Spain. A lot of students, young crowd. I think they could mess with it because definitely like it would be like more like a, you know, younger, for like a younger audience, like more like
Yeah.
like I hate to say hipsters, but you know,
kind of that crowd.
yeah. But I can't with Paris. Obviously, I knew it would work 100% there, but
Yeah.
I can't with that city. Can't. It's just madness. But yeah, that's like another cool project that, you know. And then again, it's just all about, you know, do you want to do this, and are you gonna do everything to make it happen, or
Yeah.
you're just gonna talk about it?
Sure. Well, I mean, you know, it sounds like you're still in the midst of seeing where things go with Apex. It sounds like that's got a lot of potential,
Yeah.
you know, to develop.
Yeah, I'm happy the way things are going
Yeah.
since the past 2 years. Now the goal is like, let's try to make, you know, something bigger
Yeah.
and grow beyond borders. Like, that's what we're trying. That's why we're here in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Hopefully we tour the US in 2023, and we're already coming to South America, maybe Asia, Australia. I'm really excited about that Australian and New Zealand tour we're doing in January with Freddie, and that's gonna be crazy. It's like 2,000, 3,000 people every night,
Yeah, that's going to be awesome.
and great crowds, some of the best crowds in the world. And
Speaking of, what are like some of your favorite crowds, and what are the
Ireland.
worst crowds?
Dublin,
Best?
mates, I love it. Hey, it's not because I'm Celtic and from Brittany. Dublin is,
Top?
and second, again, they're crazy. Probably Glasgow.
Yeah. So it's still
Scotland.
UK. Yeah. Or like that area.
Nah,
Yeah.
those are the best fans in the world.
Interesting. Like specifically for rap, or you think like,
Well, I've only tour managed rap,
yeah.
or I've done, like, you know,
Yeah.
more poppy, like Macklemore and Ryan Lewis, but still rappers.
Yeah.
Every best shows of my life were in Dublin. They're the best fans in the world.
Just
Best
like
fan,
super-
loudest,
Yeah.
craziest, nicest, happiest fans. They're drunk, but they're happy drunks. They're not scary drunks, or like
Yeah.
East European crowds. I love them too, but they're tougher, or like there's like, I don't know who's the worst. Everybody comes because they love the artist, right? Maybe Paris. Everybody's gonna hate me.
I mean, I feel like
Maybe-
LA, you know, and I live
Well,
here,
LA, New York, Paris, you guys are spoiled.
but- yeah.
London, everybody's spoiled.
Yeah.
And Paris is a hit or miss. I say maybe Paris, because Paris can give you 200%, like they can be
Yeah.
like LA, and sometimes they can go nuts. And they were really tough on Lord Apex, and they were really nice to Freddie Gibbs in the same show.
Interesting.
In the same show.
Yeah.
So
Male.
and then we did a show with Freddie Gibbs in Paris in March, and then Lord Apex did like some kind of like block party in June, where, I mean, he was more like headliner of the thing, and it's like for Day of Music, and there's like 700-800 people in the streets going crazy, and all like being like down, and crazy moment. But they can be really tough.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never seen a bad crowd in Dublin or Glasgow. Manchester's pretty fire too.
Were you ever working like? Are you part of like an agency, or has it always been like a solo thing for you? What's like your kind of
beginning of
company history?
Yeah, the beginning of the bookings, I I was working with like an independent agency based in Germany called the Mind Feeders. Um, Shout out to my boy Daniel and Tim. I've learned a lot through them, and we were booking Freddie Gibbs stuff together. Dom Kennedy, Asher Roth, the Cool Kids. Um, so yeah, I learned how to do bookings with them. That's for sure. And then I was more like on my own, and I always been on my own. Never been part of like a management firm, or which kind of like was tough. Sometimes I'm French, I'm European, I'm not American. I I work for myself,
Yeah.
so some people don't like that, you know.
Is that like, are there any issues? Like, I think here, like legally, you have to have like an agent
Yeah,
certification, all that kind of stuff. If you're booking
yeah,
shows, you just do that independently, or is it something that you just kind of are able to skirt around?
yeah. Well, like I don't really book shows anymore
Right.
since like at least 3 or 4 years.
Okay.
Um, I just do tour management,
Yeah.
and I have my management company, and I work for myself, and
Yeah.
then I hire the drivers or security or people that are needed, or like merch people for touring. That's what I would do, but otherwise, no, like I don't. Yeah, I'm not in touch with labels. Some labels, they have like their go-to tour managers in
Sure.
the States, or like, if you are like Sony, Warner, or like they work with this specific guy.
Yeah.
And my whole thing was like, I don't work to win. I'm not trying to necessarily make millions. So I would definitely turn down an artist that I don't like.
Yeah.
And I've done it in the past. And it's nothing against them or their team, but it's just if I'm touring with the artist, I really believe in this artist. I really like his performance, him as a human being. Out of there's only like, I think, one artist that I toured with for a while, and that I'm not talking to. Like, we don't get along. Like, it's really hard. And then everybody else, this phases, like I did like JPEG Mafia for 2 years, and I'm not his tour manager. We're not really talking, but I don't.
Yeah.
We're not in bad terms or anything. It's just how it is,
Yeah.
And a tour manager can be just a hired gun,
Sure.
Sometimes there's no
Ongoing things.
ongoing relationship. You just
Yeah.
get hired, just like a driver or a
Sure.
merch guy is getting hired.
Yeah. Totally.
And you've got to remember, you're not the artist's best friend.
Yeah.
It's like almost the number one rule for whoever's coming into the business. Like, you're not the artist's best friend. At first I didn't understand. Again, that's something that I learned.
Yeah.
You get into that world, and like some guys, they think they're the artist, or they think they're
Oh yeah.
the best friend, and they just forget their job. They forget their role.
Yeah.
They're too chatty. They're too, I've had like drivers asking crazy questions to the artist, and artist is like, dude, this guy.
Yeah.
Or like merch guys, or like, as you've got to remember, like, what's your position, and
Totally.
be willing to play it.
Yeah.
I know Lambo is Freddie's manager. Freddie is Freddie. Freddie has his assistant. Freddie has his DJ. I'm here, if if Lambo is Phil Jackson and Freddie is Michael Jordan, then his DJ is Scottie Pippen, and I'm here. Maybe I'm Tony Kukoc.
Yeah.
You know, if that.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I get it. I mean, you know, like I think it's like you come in, you kind of like come in off the bench when like the team needs you for your role.
Yeah, and I think if everybody in a team plays their position like that and knows how to not step boundaries.
Sure.
I forgot like what podcast I've seen this. I think it was Fat Joe the other day in Matt Hoffa's podcast. He said that like I am content. He was like content to play the B-roll, you know, for like Pun and now Khaled or
sure,
like, and he never like always. You can't
has to be the front guy.
Exactly.
Yeah. Even though that fucking guy will come out every 7 years with like a number one smasher, but it's only one song every
and
7.
It's cool, but sometimes you've got to be content being Scottie Pippen.
Totally.
It's a legendary player.
Yeah.
Instead of like aiming to go to another team and be the star on that team, but people's gonna forget you.
Yeah.
You know?
For sure. It's different like, goals for everybody, but the most successful teams are the ones who are composed of people that actually know these are my strengths. This is what I'm dominant at. I can play in this position in this 10-man game.
And sometimes you've got to like excel at your position in a crew.
Yeah.
And you'll be seen, you know, as such, you know, and win championships, you know.
Yeah.
And you'll be remembered.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm very content with like what I'm doing. A lot of people tell me like, why you didn't try to. I'm working with my favorite rapper.
Yeah. That's better. Yeah.
I could tour manage I don't know, like I could tour manage like a huge artist by now. I don't want that. I don't want that life. One, I like to ride my bike and go to the cheese shop. I don't want to be on the road the whole year. And then, yes, I'm a millionaire and I have a mansion and supercar. Like, fuck that.
Yeah.
Like, I'd rather tour with like 5-6 homies with Freddie Gibbs over touring with, you know, 70, 80 people with Drake.
Yeah.
I'd be miserable in the tour bus. I hate tour buses, by the way. I think it's like sleeping in a coffin. I'd much rather
have a hotel
and a Sprinter.
Yeah.
It's much better. Like, I don't like big tours. When we did that Chance and Macklemore tour, like I hated it. It was like the only thing I liked was the fact that we had our own kitchen and chefs.
That sounds pretty cool, dude.
That was cool.
Yeah,
that was really cool. And of course, the shows is like arenas, 15,000 people. But there's like 60 people every day. You don't even know half of the crew.
Yeah,
I'd rather tour with like 5 to 10 homies, and it's more like family.
Yeah, you build real genuine memories and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
What are your thoughts on like the state of affairs for that industry as a whole? You know, like now coming back online a bit, seeing shows happen. Like, you think things are bouncing back? You think it's a slow grind? Like, I know we're kind of lots of like recession talks, lots of like, oh man, we're seeing like, you know, all these different currencies having struggles, trying to figure out how to make their economies function correctly. You think that's affecting the industry, or is it just like everybody's fucking ready to be back?
Everybody thinks they're ready to be back, but like I said, like you can think some guys are cracking and they're, you know, they can't tour Europe.
Yeah.
Some guys can be signed on Def Jam and have every fucking looks you think of, and then they go to Paris and they hardly sell half of their show. You know.
You notice, I mean, I guess you probably primarily are booking Europe. Like I was going to say, I wonder if that's the same even like with how they're booking in the States.
Yeah. I mean, the States is like one thing. It's like one huge market, you know.
Yeah.
But from one state to another, it can change. Or like, it's kind of like same thing as Europe. You've got like the top tier markets: New York, LA, Chicago, Atlanta, and it's what's tough is like when it reopened in 2022, everybody's like, okay, people's gonna be hungry for shows. I got an album ready. Boom, I'm going on tour.
Yeah.
And then now you've got too much supply, not enough
Demand.
and not enough demand.
Yeah.
There's too many artists on tour.
Yeah.
So either you prep a tour that's gonna like hit hard, or you taking a huge risk.
Yeah.
If you have like an album that's not really cracking and you just throw your tour out there and you're not same things for festivals. I've seen festivals this summer like not selling out, and like that are usually sold out and they're not selling out.
Yeah.
So you've got to find ways to and it's not only touring. It's like releasing your record with a proper rollout and like, you know, think outside the box how you present it and stuff. You cannot just like Freddie was saying the other day, like, you know, you got to have like some type of like rollout around it. And you can, it feels like some artists are doing just like putting songs in a bag and be like, yo, here it is, you know. And it's the same with tours. Same with festivals. It's not because you're putting the same artist on the lineup that people's gonna come. It's really tough. So you've got to be really strategic about it, and not like we've seen it. Like I talk for my guys. Lord Apex solo tour was selling super fast last November, and the one we did in April was not as fast. And why? Because in November the UK was the only place open in Europe, and then in April all of Europe was reopened, and then every British artist were back on tour.
Yeah.
And so still, like, we still did well, but I saw and heard numbers of other artists that, in my opinion, should sell that were terrible.
Yeah.
Some of the festivals I've seen, like, we did a festival the other day where Lord Apex was booked. I'm not gonna say what country or where, but the promoter said we've sold 16,000 tickets. We were on the main stage. There was maybe like 2,000 people there. Where were they? Like they had time to forget that it was booked, and through COVID and all that, and then they didn't even show up because the same weekend there was like mad other shit.
Yeah.
And then it should have been crazy. But like the touring, and earlier I said it, in Europe, the touring in Europe is it can be tricky because they got their own artists too. There's German rappers, there's French rappers, there's, you know, Italian rappers or whatever. And then you're coming and trying to sell a project that might not have been promoted in Europe.
Yeah.
And like, you've got to be really careful now. It's like I know I speak for Europe more, but it is not the El Dorado. Is you've got to know what you're doing and really promote yourself before coming, or mess with the right promoters and things of that nature.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how this all shakes out, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, shit. That was great. I don't know if there's anything else that comes to mind for you, but I feel like that was a pretty solid rundown of.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. Thanks for having me, man. It's
Yeah.
like it's been nice to witness the growth of Truth Studio.
Appreciate that, man.
You guys killing it through the years, and I like the progression.
Thank you, man. Yeah, it means a lot. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna wrap this up.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course, man. Thank you.
Thank you.